please come up and get your award?
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it. How come you're not all standing? I really appreciate that introduction. That's the best intro I've gotten since at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal, when there were a bunch of comedians who were going to do about 6 minutes each. And so the MC came into the waiting room, the green room, and said, and just asked each one what they wanted, how they wanted to be introduced. So I said, well, just say I'm a social satirist. So about 15 minutes later, it was my turn to come on, and there was the MC looking at his scratchy notes that he had written, and he said, our next comedian is Paul Krassner, a sociopath. And so I've saw my resume now. So it's, I appreciate the irony of this award, since, as Jerry described it, I've had a lifetime of being an iconoclast, and now this is Lifetime Achievement Award is making me an icon. And so I have to search around for my O-clast and see what happened to it. I appreciate this plaque. It's probably made in China. And I told my dentist I was getting a plaque here, and he said, well, I'll remove it. So anyway, you know, to get an award like this does not imply that I did it alone. There are too many who have contributed and supported me all these decades. And I just want to thank them quickly in chronological order. But first and foremost, in terms of my spiritual quest, I would like to thank Satan. Just kidding. But it was a real competition getting this award. I beat out Justin Bieber. I beat out Levi Johnston and Johnny Knoxville. So, not to mention Christine O'Donnell. So I feel proud having beaten them out. Now, I put some notes here on to remind me what I'm grateful for. I want to thank my parents, who really were very embarrassed by my work, if not ashamed. And yet they were supportive of me, and you know, I was editing what was considered the hippest magazine in America, but I was still living with my parents. And they didn't even ask for rent money, so that was a great kind of support, and they nurtured my irreverence. My brother George and my sister Marge were also very supportive. My former wife, Jean Johnson, who taught me that responsibility is fun. My current wife, Nancy Kane, who for 22 2/3 years has been my mate and my muse. My daughter, Holly, who has been so supportive of me all these years, even when she said something like, and these words ring clearly in my head, she said, Dad, don't be offended, but I don't want to be a writer when I grow up because it seems like a very insecure profession. I want to thank Lyle Stewart, who was the editor of The Independent, which was a forerunner to the alternative press, and he was my mentor and my relentless guru, and made me the managing editor, and it was where I served my apprenticeship. Lenny Bruce, who was my inadvertent mentor in satire. Who else? a lot of friends, many of whom are here, too many to single out individually. Gary Nicosia and from Penn, and also Ishmael Reed, who decades ago we first met, and I remember in one of my books, Murder at the Conspiracy Convention, I used a frontispiece quote from him, which was, "The history of civilization is the history of the warfare between secret societies." But then I asked him, I wanted to go deeper than that, and I asked him a question, and he said, "You better ask that to Richard Pryor." And so I guess, you know, people say a Lifetime Achievement Award. Does that mean you're not going to do anything more? I mean, I was 78 in April, and I credit my longevity to never using any legal drugs. One of my books, Pot Stories for the Soul, won the Firecracker Alternative Book Award. And the interesting thing about that was, after it was published, we heard from the folks, the lawyers for the people who did the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So they wanted me to cease and desist, and which proves only that neither scientists nor theologians have been able to discover where the soul is, but it can be copyrighted. A few years ago, I was invited to write an article for the AARP magazine. It was called Modern Maturity, and as opposed to the old school maturity. And I was, it was interesting because when my subscription copy came in the mail, the article wasn't in that issue that was supposed to be in. And I called up my editor and said, "What happened?" And they said, "Well, it's in the issue. Well, how old are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm 72. And she said, "Oh, that's why." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, we put out 3 editions, those for 50 and over, those for 60 and over, and those for 70 and over." So I was too old to read my own article. And I started out being too young to read stuff. So something happened between those 2 stages. That's my lifetime achievement. And then what could follow that, but NPR decided that I was infamous enough to get an advance obituary on me. They have these things in the can, prepared. In case you die suddenly, they don't want to be stuck without facts and figures about your life. And the guy who was assigned to do my advance obituary was a friend, and he sent me a CD of my obituary. I'm one of the few people, if not the only one, who's had the privilege of fact-checking my own obituary. And so I asked him if he could include my website. But also, I had one disappointment, because the one thing they didn't mention, during the 60s, when abortion was illegal, I ran a free underground abortion referral service to safe doctors. And I thought it was important in terms because it was a turning point in my life when I crossed the line from being a satirist to an activist. And I was brought before 2 district attorneys and refused to testify, and my lawyer sued the state of New York for the abortion law, saying it was unconstitutional, and that won, which then later women's groups joined that suit, and it led to Roe versus Wade. So I was disappointed that wasn't included, but you know, I'll be dead anyway, so what difference does it make? Let's see. I guess I should just point out what I'm doing these days as a conclusion. I have had 2 projects lately. One was I put together a 500-page book called The Best of Paul Krassner, 50 Years of Investigative Satire. So far, 3 literary agents love it, but they say, it's too much, that publishers are too prejudiced against collections because they don't sell. So now I'm starting just going from individual publisher, and it happens. It happens to, I had a book called The Winner of the Slow Bicycle Race, another collection, with an introduction by Kurt Vonnegut. Sent it to 26 publishers, and we like it, but we don't think we can sell it. And the 27th publisher bought it. So it was a matter of perseverance and not taking anything personally. And then my other project I've been working on is my first long-awaited, by me, first novel. And it's about a contemporary Lenny Bruce type performer. The scenes where he performs, when my protagonist performs, I've developed on stage myself. Although at times it felt like I was really channeling Lenny Bruce, until one day he said to me, "Come on, you know you don't believe in that shit." And then I realized, and then that ended that. But a novelist friend of mine, Avery Corman, who wrote Oh God and Kramer versus Kramer, both of which became movies, I asked him about it. I said, boy, fiction is really hard to write. You have to make everything up. And he said, come on, Paul, you've been making stuff up all your life. And I said, yeah, but that was journalism. Hey, Floyd. So I just want to conclude with, I hardly remember anything from my entire higher education. The only things I remember from college, one was from Philosophy 101, where a definition of philosophy was the rationalization of life. And the other was in an anthropology course, and it was a definition of happiness as having as little separation as possible between your work and your play. And I've been very fortunate of being able to do that. And so to get an award for it is really the icing on the cake, because the process was the goal. And so and also I know in my lifetime I have met so many people who determine a lifetime achievement award, except that they didn't do it publicly. But that's my level of false humility. So I do want to say how happy this award makes me, and the only thing that makes me happier is that it's not posthumous. So, thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you.